And that's how we do it. Alright, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Last Newsdesk on the left. I am your host, Mac Paladin. With me is the usual crew of suspects. Adam is here.
You ghost.
Kevin's in the house.
Yay, you can actually hear us this week.
That's the rumor.
Hopefully.
Petty Fan's chugging around.
Oh god, where am I?
The Galax is here.
I didn't melt.
And of course, this week Twilight Winter is still with us.
Hey.
Hey. Hey. So,
right.
we always like to opine that we have a great show for you tonight, and hopefully we will make that wish into a reality for you. Adam, why don't you?
Sometimes I owe spruce it instead.
Well,
Yeah.
at least you didn't know cedar it. Largely because the check for my endorsement hasn't cleared yet. If you guys don't get that reference, I pity you. Sounds like you've never been inside of a Walmart in your lives.
I've only gotten delivery from grocery. I've been in a Walmart I've been in a Walmart once before, but I haven't gone into the dark side of Walmart, thankfully. I've been blessed about that.
I think Target carries those cedar cleaning supplies as well.
I haven't seen it there, but, you know.
Like mops and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. That and Rinso and all the other off-brands that have been around in America forever.
Rinso.
Yep. That's the dollar store brand that we get here all the time. Apparently they've been around since 1911. Rinso and
Hydrox.
Yeah.
Oh, Hydrox have been.
Exactly, right?
Or maybe Moxie.
We don't talk about that.
We do, but that's because we live in Maine.
Yeah. You can keep that. It's a fucking disgusting drink.
Get on rare occasions.
Anyhow.
Alright, so first of all, we'll start out with apologies for last week. I don't know what the fuck was going on there other than I rebuilt 3 computers and re-optimized none of them. So, there's that.
Well, we get one bad week, I guess. You have one bad week.
Indeed. I was able.
New here.
Yeah. Oh, forgive. I hear him new, but you hear are McCoy from Enterprise. Always got to get that Star Trek 3 reference in there. Not the J.J. Abrams Star Trek 3, the original Star Trek 3. And yes, I just did wink click at the microphone. Alright, Adam, why don't you bail us out here and start the actual topic of the week?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess this is more over to Kevin because the Virginia and New Jersey primaries were, yesterday?
I believe it was yesterday. Pretty much every 4 years, about the first year after the big presidential, congressional elections and everything else, and before the midterms, Virginia and New Jersey basically chimes in with whatever they want to give, and they had the primaries there yesterday. We'll start with, of course, Virginia, which is usually the big one, but probably isn't going to be a big one much anymore, considering it's blue. Firstly, turnout was right around the numbers from 2017, which is a very good sign on that front. Pretty much shows that the Democratic voters are very much energetic. The man who won the gubernatorial primary is a former governor and running again, the one and only Mr. Terry McAuliffe, who pretty much mopped the field, lapped the field, whatever you want to call it. Jennifer Foy, who was a delegate who was running as basically would probably have won the election if Terry Mack wasn't running. Finished second. Pretty much the biggest losers there were the far left. The only real deal socialist in the legislature, Mr. Lee Carter, not only lost big time in the gubernatorial primary, but also lost his delegate seat. So,
Yikes.
and he's so sour about what happened, but apparently he's decided to vote for a third-party candidate. So, yeah, see you never, Lee.
Grumpy Bumpy.
Yeah.
Maybe
So-
don't run for 2 positions at once.
Yes, and also, more specifically to the point here, Lee Carter is from Prince William County, where I used to live, as a matter of fact. And he was running in a contest as a white person against 2 Hispanic candidates in a county that has gotten pretty Hispanic over the last 10, 15, 20 years. I think you could figure out why he lost.
Yeah. It's why. Same thing happened in Texas. Only it was white M versus Hispanic Republican.
And that also happened in with that seat in California last year too. So
Yeah.
yes,
The lesson here is don't
know
run white.
it's called Know Your District. Okay, know your district. Know who's good to run a district and who's not.
Yeah.
We still have a problem with that in some places. So
Yeah. Some
know.
of that's probably up to the state parties.
yeah. Well, they need to stop doing that stuff right there.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor, the Democratic candidate there is, I've got her name, hold on, I can find it. Yeah, Hala Alaya, who would be the first Afro-Latina and first woman to win lieutenant governorship, and she'll be running against a black woman who is a Trumpkin, pretty much. Winsome Sears.
Oh my god.
So, yeah, that is the lieutenant governorship. Mark Herring won re-election. That was actually the closest of the 3 top ticket contests, which is kind of amazing considering Mark Herring had a blackface situation.
Whoops.
Let's just say, if you recall, the reason why Northern pretty much pretty much nobody resigned and everything else is because everybody on the top was had something.
Yep.
By
I
the way,
remember that.
yeah. By the way, goodbye, Justin Fairfax. Thanks for playing. Speaking of which, let me know that. So, yeah, and a lot of the far left candidates in Virginia got pretty much hosed. So, that's Virginia. We'll see what happens there in November. It'll be Glenn Youngkin, who is going to be put into a position because either Trump supports him or not, and that puts him in a box. Versus Terry McAuliffe for the governorship. I forgot who I don't know who the lieutenant. Oh yeah, lieutenant governor will be Haya Alaya versus Winsome Sears, which will guarantee Virginia getting their first woman of color as lieutenant governor, no matter what. And it'll be Mark Herring running for re-election on the AG slot. Let me see who's facing. I forgot who he's facing. Let's see here. Sorry for live research. That's what I do here.
Good to see a catchphrase crossover.
Yeah.
We do that on my show as well, and it never stops being awkward.
Someone's touching.
Hang on 1 second, folks. I'm trying here.
Breaking news.
If you don't hurry up, I might start talking about El Salvador.
And there's a few Latin American places we need to talk about this week.
Yeah, the Northern Triangle is a big story this week. Hold on. I mean, I'm trying to find you here.
How hard is it to find one?
I know. I was like, I know.
Yeah,
I
it'll
was
be
like,
a
I'm coming with that. I will buy us some room.
Yeah, Jason Mieres. That's his name. I don't know much about him, but that's his opponent. So yeah, there you go in Virginia there. New Jersey, well, it was obvious who the governor, who the gubernatorial candidate is going to be there. That's going to be Phil Murphy. So he'll be running for re-election up there. And he'll be facing off against Jack Clatterelli, I think his name is. I hope I got that right. He was the quote unquote establishment figure there. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, that's the primaries from Virginia and New Jersey. We'll see what happens there in November, and if we hold serve, then a lot of electoral Twitter is probably going to lose its ever-loving mind, because that pretty much if those two flip Republican, then we get a red wave next year. But if we don't, who the heck knows? Because that's what happened in 93 and 09. Republicans flipped New Jersey and Virginia, and that led to the red wave next year. But it's going to be an uphill battle in both states, because, well, nobody is very radical on our ticket. Although maybe we lose the AG in Virginia because of Mark Herring's stuff, but other than that, I mean, it's hard to see anybody losing on the Democratic side.
Yeah, and I'm very pleased with the numbers that we've seen so far, not just in those states, but the New Mexico special election.
Yeah,
I'm like, granted, trends can change, but considering we're early out,
so far so good. We're hitting our marks at the moment.
Because I do remember what happened in 2010.
Yeah, double tired.
Although 2009, you did see the start in 2009. You did.
I know, but nobody paid attention to that.
Now people are paying attention.
Yeah, I will say that politics coverage has, believe it or not, gotten better in certain regards, because it's not just about the fucking presidential election, the midterms, but it's these elections matter.
Yeah, although in these states that we're talking about here, especially Virginia, I think that everybody knows it now.
Yeah, especially since these are more localized elections,
right?
Because the fight against Republicans isn't just a federal thing,
right? It's a state thing too. That's right. Mm-hmm.
And especially since I guess we got to address them at some point.
Right now I can get them out of the way.
It's like, because if you want more shit done, you're going to need more Dems.
Yep.
Unfortunately,
that fucking Junkrat, Jesus Christ.
Can't really say where infrastructure's going to lie, because I guess on that note, first of all, people who are getting frustrated about the infrastructure talks, that is understandable to a certain point, but it's also, you got to understand that Democrats and Republicans operate differently. Like the Dems have stated that these talks would be legitimately bipartisan, and even if the Republicans aren't acting in good faith, the Dems are. And that means having actual negotiations and backs and forth and stuff that takes time. This isn't. If this were a Republican scheme, well, there would be no negotiations, quite frankly. They would just do. Because, Republicans are better at exercising raw power than Dems. It's, it's one of those, and it's not just, it's because mentalities, its basis as well. Remember, this is shit that people were elected on. Biden specifically, preached unity and bipartisanship. And that's another thing about these negotiations. They're not bad faith, we're just going to do this to arrive at a certain point. Reconciliation is an option. It's the last option. It's not it's not, believe it or not, it's not the anointed end piece. At least not according to Democrat planning. That's more, we expect to be here because Republicans are going to Republican. That being said, Republicans have been putting forth things, but to say that they're going to go anywhere is dubious at best. Because
that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, we can have these negotiations, we can let these negotiations play out, but unfortunately, we've had a negotiation period of what was it, 2-3 months, and Republicans did not move towards Biden in a very real, substantial manner.
Well, that's
Biden is the one that went fully down. He probably, and everybody probably expected that the Republicans could at least meet him at the $1.1 trillion, $1.2 trillion region, and Republicans did not want to go above $1 trillion.
That might not be the. Well, no, that's actually not the. That's not the biggest problem here.
I'm getting there.
Yeah.
But of course, probably the biggest problem is the fact that the Republicans are insistent that they do not want to touch anybody's taxes. And unfortunately, that is not something that Democrats or Biden is going to accept.
No, those have been reached. Yeah, those are, because the proposal from the Republicans on how to actually pay for things are user fees.
Yeah, that's basically tolls. That's basically things that pretty much basically force Biden to violate his pledge not to hurt the middle class on any package.
Also, redirecting COVID relief, of which there's not that much.
Not much. $75 to $120 billion. That's nothing.
So, and like if anything's going to break towards reconciliation, it's going to be taxes, I think.
Yeah, at this point. Although we will, let's see if they can come up with a better, in terms of the overall money package here.
Right.
So, I mean, if they do good on the money side of things, then they don't have to move all the way on the taxes. They just have to move some. If they stick on this, well, we're not going to touch taxes here, then there's going to be no deal. Even if you put as much money on the table as possible, because Biden's made it clear, the Biden team has made it clear they're not going to do this user fee deal, and they're also not going to accept this leftover COVID money because it's not going to be enough.
Right. So we'll see what happens, but once again,
this group of 20 here, this group that Manchin and Cinema are praying does something. They only have a week or two to do things here because I think everybody's patience is run out. because it's quite clear the fundamentals here.
Right.
It's not just a simple case of, oh, we shouldn't be doing negotiations, period. It's, okay, we've done negotiations, and they're not moving. It comes a point where you have to realize is that this party does not want to move in a way that we all want them to move because of their strict belief about taxes.
That being said, you have to play the game.
Yes. Yes. I mean, they got pretty much until Biden comes back from Europe to come up with something at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They did.
It's basically, Biden's in Europe now, he's meeting with the Queen tomorrow, so you got until he touches down back at Andrews at this point to come up with something to put for him. If you don't give anything for him when he lands back in America, you're done. Because enough Democrats are pretty much going to go, and not just, the liberals, but the moderates, they're basically saying, give us a week, and that means basically while he's out in Europe. If he comes back from Europe and they have nothing, or they have something that is as laughable as anything that Capito that Shelley Moore Capito put in front of him the last couple of months, then...
Indeed.
And I'm sorry, Joe and Kristen, we're going the reconciliation route, and we have to, and you have to name your price. Because we've given Republicans, what's it been, like 4 months? 5 months?
There's something along those lines.
Yeah, 4 or 5 months since, we first put the ball rolling in late February, early March.
There we go.
Pretty much around there. And multiple offers where the Republicans have not moved forward in a substantial way, and they reject the concept of moving forward into the middle. If they can't move into the middle, we're not moving any further down than we already have. See, there comes a point where you can't negotiate anymore because there's no middle point. Like, we can move all the way down, but they have to move all the way up. That's how negotiations are supposed to work. It's like, we move down, they move up, there's a middle point, we agree to that middle point, and we go from there. Republicans don't want to move to that middle point on a critical area to pay for this thing. Like, what do you expect us to do? Because it's either we go reconciliation, or we pretty much tell America we can't fix our roads and bridges because Republicans are too intransigent, and you, Joe, and you, Kristen, that fact. And I don't think we want to go to the voters and say, well, we can't do anything unless we get more Democrats in here because the Democrats that we do have don't want to do anything. Because Republicans don't want to move forward.
It plays into the common narrative that Democrats are incapable of doing anything ever. They sometimes win elections and then they can't move the ball, and it's like and AOC tweeted recently. She basically said this is a repeat of 2009 all over again. It's like everybody was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a 60 vote majority for a long ass time, and then that lasted about 4 months. She's like, you're out of time. Do something now, or that's it. We can forget about all the progress we've made forward in the last 2 decades.
Although I probably don't want to hear it from her, considering that in a couple of weeks she's going to get a nice rejection by the people of the city that she lives in. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, because her candidate in the New York mayoral race is probably going to lose to a centrist. Eric Adams, Maya Wiley, that whole deal. Yeah.
Well, it's immaterial. Somebody needs to say it. It doesn't matter at this point. It doesn't matter the source. It's like a truth is a truth, regardless of the source.
Honestly, I think it does matter the source, frankly, because sometimes the source has an agenda of her own.
This is true, but a truth is a truth, and the truth is that we're repeating 2009 all over again.
No, I don't think we are. Honestly, I don't think we are at this point. Because, we got, all of us got caught slipping. I don't think anybody's going to be caught slipping right now.
More to the point, the biggest priority is being achieved, and that's COVID.
Yes, that's
you
the
know,
important point here. Biden pretty much ran to pretty much save the country from Trump's negligence on COVID.
intersect that with the economy. Like, the economy is actually rebounding, maybe not as much as some people were expecting, but it is rebounding, which is not the case. It took a while for the economy to recover, probably about 2011, if I'm remembering correctly. And that was a factor as well.
Yeah, that was also a factor, yeah. I mean, there was a lot of factors into 2010 there, and also because of the fact that the healthcare push was at the time unpopular.
Well, yeah, the healthcare push just drained all of the political capital we had.
Yeah, and it was unpopular at that time. It was unpopular.
See, the thing with infrastructure is, it's just not that emotional of a topic.
Yeah.
It's just something that needs to be done. It's just something that needs to be done, and it has been neglected for a really long time. And
no arguments there.
And the American public, and the thing is that the American public is like, yeah, we've been saying this for a really long fucking time. So it's like, put up or shut up.
Look, here's the problem. The problem is that one party wants to do it, the other party doesn't want to do it, and unfortunately, that other party still has some levels of power to use.
Well, there's something of a deficit in the efficiency that you get when one party believes in democracy and the other party believes in totalitarianism, because totalitarianism is superficially more efficient.
Look, the fact of the matter is that we have a 50-50 Senate, and we only have a couple of votes in the House. So we have an evenly divided Congress. People have to deal with that for the next year and a half. They have to deal with it because that's what they voted for. There are people who voted for Biden for president, but voted for Republicans for Congress. Those people have to deal with the fact that Republicans are acting Republicans, and if they don't like it, well, there's only one thing you have to do. And if you don't want to do it, shut up.
Mm-hmm. Like, once again, we talked about this before, but the answer isn't, fucking getting rid of Manchin or having him go over to the fucking Republicans. Do you know how fucking stupid that is?
Yes.
It's like, okay, let's hand control back to Mitch McConnell. That sounds fucking tip top.
Well, it's like whatever they did to get him on board with reconciliation before. It's like, find out what he wants now. Just whatever it is that he wants. Whatever it is that he really wants. Never mind what he says in the press. This is what I said the last time we had this conversation. Never mind what he says in the press. Go to his aides.
No. Don't go to his aides. Don't go to his aides. Take him himself, bring him into a room, lock the door, sit down and ask, what's your price? What do you want?
Yeah, no equivocation, no prevarication, just what's...
Don't talk to
It's like, I'm going to hand you this blank piece of paper, I'm going to hand you this blank piece of paper and a pen, and you quietly write down what it is that you want.
What your projects are. Do you want an interstate?
Yeah.
Do you want a park? Do you want whatever you want? What do you want for your state specifically?
Do you want more investment in green energy? Whatever the hell it is that you want. Do you want us to put your coal miners to work building solar farms on the top of mountains? Tell us. Whatever it is.
Hell, maybe we could put more money into coal and piss off the environmentalists.
Yeah.
Look, what do you want? Just what do you want? Name your price. Name your price. Lock the door, name your price. That's what I say at this point.
Because it should be noted, Manchin has not been against going big on infrastructure.
Because it benefits him. It benefits West Virginia.
No doubt. No,
he's just insisting that some of this stuff be bipartisan when that's impossible.
Right.
He's living in a previous generation, and Biden understands it because he kind of lives in that same realm, although he has, realized because he was there for the Obama administration. You know,
You know, we were having a discussion.
things a little differently.
That touches on something that annoys me. Is that we were having this discussion during dinner, and I was like, is it really necessary, Joe Biden, for you to have a weekly video call with Obama? I think that sends several wrong messages. It's like, first of all, the guy didn't want you to run. He actively campaigned against you in 2016 in favor of Hillary Clinton, sidelined you, and then in 2020 took his sweet-ass time endorsing you because he never wanted you to be president in the first place. So why are you having these buddy-buddy fireside Zoom chats with the former president?
They're still friends. They're still personal. They're still personal.
I gotta tell you something. You know, speaking as a quarter Italian, that's not exactly how a friend should act. And I'm saying from Obama's side. Joe Biden may honestly think that they're friends, but does Barack think that they're actually friends?
Yes.
I have to wonder about that.
He gave the guy the Medal of Freedom the day before they left.
Ooh.
Look, I'm sorry. It's just
So Rush Limbaugh got one of those too, so we know exactly how valuable that is.
well, that was before that.
Yes, we know exactly how valuable that is in terms of what it says about how the person giving it feels about the person receiving it.
Oh, before that guy, the Medal of Freedom was something you gave to people that actually did good things and
Yeah.
of course that guy did a lot of things.
Well, I mean, maybe
Can't look at
maybe from Donald Trump's
that guy.
maybe from Donald Trump's point of view, Rush Limbaugh's a good guy, but
I didn't realize
it's just someone who kissed his ass enough.
well,
That's how he.
isn't that Donald Trump's sole qualification for whether or not somebody's good?
Yes, nobody's disputing that. I'm just saying that we shouldn't look at everything through the lens of, hey, but how did Trump use that, or how did Trump do this?
But this is what I'm talking about, though, is the sequence of events after that. So he gives him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and then immediately turns and stabs him in the back.
Okay, there's a whole team.
No, he didn't. I think everybody in 2016. I think there would be a lot of more people who wanted him to run than they did now. They did it in 2020. Okay, but look, when he ran, everybody got in line. Eventually, when it became clear that he was going to win, and there was a point. Where it looked like his back was against the wall, and that he was at death's door. To be fair, but once that moment passed, everybody got in line, and everybody did what everybody was going to do, which is what you're supposed to do. And that is get in line. So, anyway, I think we're kind of a little too long on this. Let's move on.
All right. So, going internationally, a lot of stuff's been going on in Latin America. Like, I guess in terms of El Salvador, for whatever reason, they have yeah, sorry, we're getting some interference. Anyway, El Salvador has decided to make Bitcoin legal tender in their country, which is the first nation to actually do so. So
now it will be interesting what this means for how Bitcoin's relationship with whatever El Salvador's original legal currency, how are they going to be at a set exchange rate, or is it just going to still be complete? Because remember, part of the benefits of this is that it's supposed to not be tied to a government. So if they just accept it, but it's not tied to the government, then I guess that's theoretically good for Bitcoin. But if they try to associate the value or something, then that could be
point.
I don't know.
Problem.
I'm good.
it seems like a bad idea. Bitcoin isn't exactly known for its fucking stability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Listen, you.
Well, no, could result in Bitcoin becoming a lot more stable, just, a lot less valuable.
Maybe this gives crypto value, but crypto doesn't have value right now. So
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're an arms
Anyway.
dealer or dealing in drugs, I guess.
yeah.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Currently,
in Peru, there is a.
Keep going.
Meanwhile, in Peru,
There is a presidential election going on.
A very, very tight one that is, brought up the concept of electoral fraud again.
Yeah. I'm like, mind you, that was a couple of days ago when what's his name was behind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what we have here is, it's a strange thing because some candidates are technically left and right, but not necessarily in the way that we might think.
Yeah.
Because the left-wing candidate has right-wing ideas, and the left-wing candidate has, the left-wing candidate has right-wing ideas, and the right-wing candidate has left-wing ideas, and
You mean
the
concept of left and right might be different in other countries?
yes, exactly, and
the fact that our left is actually middle of the road here and everywhere else.
Middle
It's all
right, some
relative.
say.
Once again, it's all relative, and
It's all relative,
it's not exactly true.
yeah.
But that's a debate for another day. Yeah.
Well, the candidate ahead is the socialist candidate, and the candidate behind is the conservative, who's the daughter of a former dictator. So,
Exciting.
who also was in jail herself once upon a time for corruption. So,
And keep this in mind when the election is too close to call. I mean, Pedro Castillo has claimed victory, but Fujimori has not conceded. And
it says there are 500,000 votes outstanding when the margin is 71,000.
yeah, this is a thing that's one way or the other is not going to end here. Oh no, like we've seen this fucking episode played in American politics. It's like I'm not sure what their process is, but this is definitely the kind of thing where you get recounts and and challenges and all that stuff. Hopefully, things are not insurrection-y here.
Yeah.
Because, thanks to the stupid orange yam, that's been a fucking thing. It's not just here.
Although, let's be honest, that kind of stuff seems a lot more common in
the world.
America.
Right, but it's not just
admittedly,
here.
some of the governmental instability in Latin America is because the United States refuses to fucking stop.
I was gonna go cough. I was gonna go cough interventionism cough.
Yeah.
Right. That being said, not everything that goes wrong in Latin America is our fault.
True.
Some of the things yes, but a lot of times it's also not.
Sometimes
No,
it dates.
I agree.
Sometimes it dates back to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
It's
true.
like
Yep. I mean,
that being said, I would be hard pressed to connect us to this current election in Peru.
no.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying here.
Yeah.
No argument that we have fucking intervened. We have intervened a lot, especially in Latin America. But once again, that's not. We're not. As far as we know, we're not intervening here because we no fucking U.S.-backed rebels have killed socialists yet.
No.
Ouch.
No.
Nice for playing the game.
Hey, that's shit that has actually happened.
Oh, I know.
So
I'm all too aware.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway.
So yeah, but it's also not here. Just here in the Peru, Israel. Going back to them, Netanyahu has been, talking like Trump, for lack of better term here, in the face of his imminent ousting.
Yeah.
So, that being said, how?
What was his line? If he gets removed, it's the beginning of the end for the global right wing or something like that? Or the global far right?
Something like that.
And I follow that with and.
Yeah. It's also, how much actual support does BB have at this point? Like, how many fucking...
See, I mean, it technically won't be support for him, but rather his politics.
Right.
So,
right. I mean, that's kind of, that may be the missing element here.
basically, Sunday he's out.
Right. That's the thing I've been wondering about BB. He's been talking this, but can he actually gather supporters and have them march on the Knesset? That doesn't really sound like a thing that would happen.
No, not for him.
Yeah.
Considering that, again, for the last 4 attempts at forming a new government, the only thing that everyone could agree on was that they didn't want him.
Mm-hmm.
But they couldn't get enough people to agree on who they did want to actually change anything until this time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my point. He's talking like this, but I'm like, in real terms, he's, he doesn't have the cult of personality that Trump has. I guess, speaking on that, a bit of an update on what's going on in correction land. Because, to address certain gimmick accounts who have been wailing that, nothing is being done about, the limitless lawlessness of Trump. Well, it's like, in terms of the insurrection, that is decidedly not the case, because it doesn't hit a lot.
In terms of the people who went to the Capitol that day, yeah, they're getting their just due. It's just, the people who oversaw things from the comfort of the West Wing, well, that's a question still.
Well, yeah,
people who were actually in the building, yeah, they're getting their just due.
Yeah, I mean, that is a decided difference between that and nothing, especially since it's not getting the amount of press, but the thing is, the indictment count is rising. I think we are at 550 indictments, or 550 people indicted. Now, keep in mind, that's not all for sedition or it's not even all felonies. Some of it is misdemeanor stuff, but there are differing level of charges. But my point is, a lot of the actual insurrectionists, they are in jail. They are going to jail. They are, they're going to face consequences. It's also the DOJ keeps expecting 100 more indictments. Mind you, that's just their boilerplate language. So it's going to be really interesting if they move past 800 or so, which I think is the amount of people who've reached. And it's also new charges are being levied against certain people, like the Oath Keepers. They're facing a lot of conspiracy charges. Also, plea deals are being offered, and that makes you wonder to what end are they pleading? Who are they pleading against? Now, the point is the
quick going into the leadership in terms of certain groups that we know of.
The point is the actual insurrection case is actually one of the most complex and sprawling in American history. But I think the frustration is over Trump himself, and as far as he goes, he's already in enough legal hot water. I've said this before, but it bears repeating. It's really more of a race to see who indicts first. I mean, New York's been getting all of the attention, but don't forget, Georgia's still in play. Now,
Yeah.
Fulton County, that thing is still ongoing. That's got a grand jury panel. It's just that's being super quiet, which interests me on its own accord. Because certainly heard quite a bit from New York. Not a peep out of Georgia.
Well, that's because they've already convened their grand jury. So
right.
So they're probably going to be first to the post. They're probably going to be first to the post on this.
Yeah. The Manhattan, because Manhattan, because you got to remember that case has been going on for years. Dating back to the presidency.
Yeah, they had the advantage of closeness to Trump for a really long time. So
right. Also, it's a question of
close to the
New York case. Well, it's also the New York case metamorphosizing because it's not just Manhattan. The New York Attorney General's office is connected in, which is unusual. And they flat out said their investigation to the Trump organization is criminal now. So there's a lot, and they've called in the CFO of the Trump organization into the grand jury.
Yep.
The CFO.
Things are moving.
Yep.
So as far as Trump not facing justice, that's definitely not the case. It's because
that's not. It's not. It's happened, but it's not out of the question.
Yeah. It's just, keep in mind, like, actual law and keep in mind, when and if Trump gets indicted, this is going to be a fucking unprecedented step. Because this will be the first time a former president of the United States has faced criminal charges.
Because of this, he's still maintaining that he's immune to charges for everything that happened while he was president.
Yeah, except the stuff that they're investigating him
It's
for.
complete bullshit. But I'm saying he's maintaining it.
The stuff that
he maintains a lot of things that are bullshit.
Yeah, the stuff that they're investigating him for is a dragnet that goes back decades.
Oh yeah.
Plus, we're talking about states here, so.
Yeah, there's no exit strategy for him except spending every imaginary goddamn dollar he's got to try to avoid the gallows, basically.
Don't be silly, Mac. All dollars are imaginary.
I had this argument with some friends at another time, but that's way beyond the scope of this episode.
Yeah, we do.
I don't want to have a libertarian review of the difference between money and currency.
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyway, but my overall point is, it's, the wheels of justice are turning. It takes some fucking time.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, we will probably see something this year, at least I would say from New York, because Cy Vance is not going to be the AG. So, but these things aren't on a fixed timeline either.
I think if we're going to see anything, it'll be on the backside of the year, like September, October, November, somewhere around then.
Yeah, I suppose. On that note, as far as the feds prosecuting Trump, I mean, not only getting around that whole former president of the United States, which is its own can of worms, even like the DOJ is currently entangled with a lot of Trump-era shit.
Yeah, there was the whole defamation thing that they were trying to step in front of for some reason, and then the what was it? The federal judge basically said, "Yeah, that's bullshit. Get out of here."
Well, it's it's apparently because they want to execute institutional power. What they said. And it's not just this. You've got the Puerto Rico SSI exclusion thing, which is seems to be a presidential DOJ divide. here's the downside for having the DOJ operate independently. Because Biden could clamp down on this shit if he really wanted to. It's not just Trump that did this kind of, a good example I saw today is DOMA. Because DOMA got repealed a lot later than people think, I think. It was like 2013? 2000. But before then, the DOJ, Obama ordered them to stop defending DOMA.
Yeah, that was definitely
So-
Obama. 2013.
There we go. So, if Biden wanted to step in on these institutional issues, he can do that. If he says to the DOJ to stop defending a thing, which is what's coming into contention today, because the DOJ has announced that they are going to vigorously defend the religious freedom laws that exclude LGBTIQA people from religious schools. That's a thing that's
That's a problem.
yeah, it's a fucking problem.
It's a problem. Sorry, it's a problem. And
I
with
say-
the defamation thing. I'm not really a fan of that, but I can kind of see where he's going with it. No. This isn't anything to do with institutionality. This has everything to do with this. This is a political move. This whole concept of defending religious institutions from certain rules, that is a political decision. That's not an institutional decision.
Well, I think that's it. Yeah, and it's
not to not defend religious institutions. That is not an institutional thing. This is any branch of government is not affected at all by not defending religious institutions from not telling gay people to go to hell. Okay? This is a political decision. It is.
not disputing that.
There's a demented upside to this, and that is that if they do that and say the Supreme Court decides that that's okay, they actually would set a precedence going into these abortion cases and marriage equality cases that would force them to be classified as First Amendment issues. It's about the only upside I can possibly see here.
And that's not even the upside itself, because that can easily morph into something terrible.
True. No, but I'm saying that's, it's like if you want to really crucify these strict constructionists, sauce for the goose, as they say. But that's thin, as you say. It's real thin.
It's very thin. Another administration could easily turn it into something different.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they codify. But what I'm saying is unless they codify it at the Supreme Court. That's what I was saying. That's the thin. That's the thin line there. That's the thin silver lining there. That's the only thing I can say would be an upside here. And it's real. And it's real. And it's real weak.
Yeah. My point is that maybe this isn't specifically Biden, but it's going to reflect on Biden nonetheless.
Unfortunately,
Now, like I said, this is the downside with having, the completely independent DOJ, because I think it got forgotten that the DOJ is still the DOJ. They're not their fucking friend.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, they're much better than the Trump era, but
there's still some problems.
Yeah. It's like, this is also why presidential legacies tend to be complicated, because no matter what the president, you're just gonna have some bad shit happen.
Yep. Yep, there are going to be bad things about it. You have to, you have to take the bad with the good.
The legacy of the last four administrations, and ironically, Ben Sass of what was it, Nebraska, was the one to bring this up. Was that the legacy of the last four presidencies is that Congress has abdicated too much responsibility to the executive branch, and they have not exactly used it well.
Well, and I don't want to hear it from him because he hasn't helped matters.
No, I know that. That's why I said it's ironically hearing it from him, of all people.
Well, I mean,
I'm tired of people saying things that they can easily change on a dime. Yeah,
it's like Congress doesn't have to abdicate any responsibility to the executive branch if they actually chose to act.
Yeah, it's like,
Instead of punting all the time.
Yeah, it's like you're mourning about the fact that the executive branch is getting more responsibility, and then meanwhile you're voting for giving the executive branch more responsibilities. Yeah, stop saying and start doing. That's what I say to these people. Stop saying and start doing. You could say that you hate the fact that the Senate has gone the way it has. Do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way it looks to me is that you're saying these things and then, well, you're kind of helping with that fact, and then all of a sudden you're turning around going, oh no, I didn't mean to be like this, when you voted for it to happen.
Well, I mean, that's another case of political expedience, too. It's like whatever suits your cause in the moment, right?
So, it's like, people need to stop saying and they need to start doing and showing their work. Because politicians say a lot of things and they hope for a lot of things and they pray for a lot of things, but then on the other hand, you don't show your work, and then you also are part of the problem, it turns out, at the end of the day.
Oh, man, but I just want to show that I can pass the test by guessing by filling in the bubbles on the Scantron.
Show your work. Like, teachers always tell you to show your work, and they do that for a reason.
Did you actually learn it, or did you just pass the test? And it's like, well, I'm a victim of circumstance. This is how you chose to test me.
No excuses. Do your work. That's what I say anyway.
Oh, it's like if the founding fathers only had 3 centuries worth of vision ahead of them, if only.
Yeah, it's like they only had 1.5 at best. Anyway.
Hey.
So
something entertainment news?
Well, yes. Wanted to talk about this last week, but since we had to catch up on burger news, it's Pride Month. And therefore, the types of rainbows.
The corporations have their rainbow logos, which they will kindly turn back to their normal logos on July 1st at midnight. There's
no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Yeah.
Everything is exploitable. Everyone is exploitable.
Yeah. Socialism is a dead fucking philosophy.
Well, I mean, if you buy their bullshit, sure.
Well, I mean, 30 years since the Soviet Union's been dissolved.
Yeah.
That wasn't socialism, and you goddamn well know it.
Yeah, it was. That's true. Socialism and communism are kind of two separate things, especially considering that the way the Soviet Union operated was, had a little authoritarianism in there, and that really wasn't a lot of people get sold into.
Well, and what they had wasn't,
socialist. They weren't communist. The difference is communism doesn't involve money. Like. We don't have fucking time for this.
Anyway, just keep moving, get out of this.
Anyway, the rainbow of, I hesitate to use the word exploitation, but certainly
what's the word?
Hollowness in some cases. Specifically, I want to address Disney. because they're the ones that people are focusing in on because they keep trying to have their first gay character.
Yeah, this is their first character. He's there for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if we talked about this before, but it's like what was it with Cruella? There were legitimate articles hyping up the first openly gay Disney character in a movie.
Press release. Those stories come about because there's a press release from the company.
Because this is literally the 7th time this is happening. And
each time they're allegedly reaching a new echelon of but this time it's actually mentioned in the movie or whatever the fuck. But seriously,
it doesn't matter because
if you want to.
Minutes.
Okay, or if you want to disqualify Pixar or Marvel or Lucas, because they're not the mainline Disney brand, that would still be untrue because they did this hype job over the Beauty and the Beast live action remake.
Yeah.
Yeah, LeFou is technically their first. Yeah. Their first gay character in a Disney movie.
And it didn't go anywhere.
Yep, and he did it.
So,
but this movie wasn't a remake. Instead, it was a stupid live-action prequel.
Yes, it was a prequel, yes. Yeah, it was a prequel that tried to both be itself and also be connected to 101 Dalmatians.
And also give fucking a backstory to Cruella de Vil where she really still doesn't hate dogs, but if she did, she'd be totally justified because her parents were fucking killed by trained attack Dalmatians.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's fucking Cruella de Vil.
Well, I mean,
she does not need a complex motive. Her motive is very clear and explainable.
Yeah,
also, her last name is DeVille. DeVille.
Yeah. So apparently they gave an explanation for that last name too. Look.
I know they had her change her name from Estella to Cruella when she decided, okay, I'm evil now, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, and of course apparently she had a different last name, but they changed it and they gave an explanation for it.
Also, Dalmatians killed her mother.
Yeah, I said that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that bears repeating. Because this is voodoo shark territory.
Well, I mean, at least the LGBT plus community didn't kill her family. Thus making it weird.
Yeah, I call these movies creep movies, and this is one of the E's. This is the exploitation E. This is an exploitation of the IP. This isn't a remake. This isn't an exploitation of the IP, and it's an exploitation that nobody asked for, but apparently enough of you bought it to get a sequel, which would be.
I also read a couple of fairly convincing posts regarding the fact that at least part of this movie is trying to do some character therapy on a rich corporate asshole villain. Because Disney doesn't want you to think badly of rich corporate assholes. They want you to think that, but they might be human.
Of course.
I don't know.
I still have some warm yellow liquid on my leg.
Of course. It's like, look.
From their last attempt at this.
Yeah, it's like the point of order is that this movie is that enough of you people, I don't think anybody here, but enough of you people out there, if you're listening, I don't know, gave enough money to this thing to get a sequel to this. And of course that sequel is going to be an actual remake of 101 Dalmatians because of the way this movie ended.
Oh my god.
Because this movie literally ends with the main dogs from 101 Dalmatians going to the main human characters of 101 Dalmatians.
I suppose the question is Glenn Close still available?
The only damn good thing about the Oscars this year, get her on the phone. Come see if you want so do another twist. Why not?
I mean, since we're on entertainment and we've brought up Pride Month, I would like to also point out that the micronation of Gay Island is still at war with Australia.
Fair enough.
I feel like that's important to cover that under entertainment because that is endlessly entertaining to me.
Right.
Simon Francisco Franco is still dead.
So, yeah, getting back to the mouse. I think this really speaks to how badly botched this walking the line approach to having gay people in your movies has failed, because you're literally hyping up something that has happened and nobody's buying it because, you know, we all see through your bullshit at this point.
Yeah, because of the fact that you've done it multiple times.
Well, it's also because the representation they've given is small stuff that can be easily edited out.
Yes, it's like at most 5-10 minutes.
That's being generous.
I'm saying at most.
It's bad representation if there's no flow. If there's no flow change in the story by removing the elements.
Yeah.
Right. And they do this because they want to sell their movies in Russia and China. Which gets me to the next point. And, you know, even former Disney creators are starting to call them out because, you know, Alex Hirsch tweeted at the beginning of the month about Disney's stances. Now, in fairness, this is an area where things have changed. It's especially poignant to him because his girlfriend is the creator of the Owl House. Now, if you want to talk about Disney and actual queer representation, this is an actual jam here. It's not just...
Although I will hold on to that fact until the end of the series in all actuality.
Well...
To be
it's like, we are going off. Look, we are going off of the information we have been given so far. And look, what the creator has told us is that Lutz is bi, Amity is a lesbian. Like, and this isn't hidden shit. Like, oh god, Amity is about one of the biggest disaster queers I've ever seen.
Yes, the creator has admitted. And there you go. I mean, this isn't, you know, you have to squint to see.
So keep in mind, this is a admission that is coming out after season 1. This isn't the final season. This isn't you know. So it does depend on how season 2 plays out. But, you know, even if Lutz and Amity don't hook up, it doesn't change their sexuality.
They're also kind of young for that currently. But yeah.
Yeah. But the creator has admitted the, you know, sexual orientation. So this isn't.
and the point is, it's not exactly hidden. And you know, maybe you could say this falls behind other companies, but that's not the point I'm getting at. My point is here. You know, here is Disney offering up real representation. The problem is it's in a Disney Channel animated series. Not the only time they've done this. Like, there was a live action thing that had a gay character, but you'll know that they're regulating it to the television division, which might not necessarily be exported to homophobic countries. Whereas, you know, Star Wars, Marvel, Disney, you know, Pixar, these are all, you know, big international brands. Well, you know, if the Owl House gets banned in Russia, who cares? If the next Star Wars movie gets banned in China or Russia because of gay people, you know, Disney's going to shit a golden brick.
Yep, that's the fact. That's the unfortunate fact. And, you know, they're still very much hesitant because they put open a gay character and you lose the Chinese market. That's hundreds of billions of dollars. You lose... some other markets too for some other hundreds of billions of dollars, and you know they want every single penny. Although I kind of question that, considering what they're doing with Disney, this day and date theatrical Disney Plus, they're leaving money on the table. So
well, and speaking of Disney Plus, we would be very remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that our favorite gender fluid trickster debuted today.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking of, you know. Yeah, the dossier confirmed this. It seems to be.
Now, Mac was talking about how behind he was on the MCU, but I think the last movie I saw was the Avengers, so
Yep.
y'all go ahead.
But
I followed some of it third person.
but Loki, our favorite shape-shifting, gender-fluid trickster, has debuted today, and it seems interesting. I'll say that much.
Hopefully, it comes out better than the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
I haven't really heard bad reviews of that. I mean, they all do tie together rather neatly. But this one's important because this goes into Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home. The events of this and what is going on. The basic premise was that Alt Loki from the fractured timeline created by Infinity War is nabbed up by a interdimensional organization dedicated to preserving the quote-unquote one true timeline. And
that is eminently hilarious.
yeah, they're basically saying that the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Earth 199999 is the one true timeline, and that all of the other ones are multiverse. And if what has leaked about Spider-Man No Way Home and the Multiverse of Madness, which, by the way, is directed by Sam Raimi, interestingly enough, it's going to basically open the floodgates to spill in some rather iconic actors and character portrayals from the Sonyverse of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
I mean, you haven't gotten really.
Trying to remember if Doctor Strange 2 is before No Way Home.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. Because from what I understand, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness or whatever it is, that's the one that's really supposed to kick off the multiverse stuff.
I know it's supposed to address it, but if I'm not mistaken, Doctor Strange does appear in No Way Home, because the latest rumor, which seems to be circulating around, is that the Sinister Six is not only they've already confirmed Doc Ock and Electro, as portrayed by Alfred Molina and Jamie Foxx. But they've also been circulating the rumor that Spider-Man 3's Sandman will be there. That Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin will be there. And who else? Rhino, Paul Giamatti is supposed to come back as Rhino from Amazing Spider-Man 2. And there was one other I can't think of.
Sony's Venom, I think. Tom Holliston is supposed to be there.
Yeah. By the way, for the record, No Way Home is coming out first. It's coming out in December. Multiverse of Madness is coming out March 22.
Okay, so that's the setup, and that's a shift because they were trying to do it the other way around, and then they decided to change tracks.
I think COVID might be the reason for that.
Right, but if that particular Sinister Six, the implication is that because of the events of Loki and sealing off those alternate timelines, that the Sinister Six, as portrayed by these iconic actors and character portrayals from the various alternate Marvel universes, are trapped in our timeline, the Prime timeline, the 199999 timeline. And if
the norm timeline.
Yeah, and if that is the case, then that's going to be very, very interesting. And also, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield have been extraordinarily coy lately about whether or not their Peter Parkers will also be sucked into this universe.
Although I've seen stuff that says that they're not in there, but hey, I guess we're gonna have to wait and see.
Right, but I mean, the confidentiality agreements that the Marvel Cinematic Universe makes all of its actors sign. It's like Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan had no idea how Falcon and the Winter Soldier were. They didn't even know that it was happening until they got a phone call from their agent saying that Feige called and gave the word. It's like they had no idea whether or not their characters would live or die. Nobody has any clue the ultimate fate of what's going to happen to them until they get on set and somebody hands them a sealed script. You know, so it's like they have a level of secrecy that far outstrips J.J. Abrams.
I was waiting.
Because he always has NDAs on everybody for everything, and even I'm blanking on our MCU Spider-Man. The actor's name, Tom
Holland.
Yeah, Tom Holland has also said, he's like, trust me, guys, I would be the last person they would tell anything to. He's like, so I have no idea either. You know.
Yeah. Although he also said, I had the greatest thing I've ever had in my life, and it's like, yeah, what do you think that means?
Mm-hmm.
So, but.
So yeah,
you know, they're keeping it close to the vest. They're not even showing it in the damn trailers to give it away. So,
yeah. So I mean, this is pretty wild, and I'm here for it. I got to say, this level of uncertainty, because you know the roadmap up through Phase 3 has been pretty by the beats, by the book. You know, it's just that you could kind of lay out the beats and say, yeah, I can see this from the sequence of events in the comic books, but this.
I mean, at that, but of course with Phase 3, it was pretty much all of these long-standing franchises that pretty much were on a groove.
Right.
They were pretty much
I'm here for a little chaos.
I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe had to reach up to a Phase 4 to get to this experimental point, because keep in mind, this whole shared universe thing is not a thing that's guaranteed. Looking at you, DC.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God. And you're...
Well, of course, DC was trying to be Marvel without, you know, learning from Marvel, you know.
Well, even in the here and now, they're fucking things up.
Yeah. Well, DC has this penchant for you know, you want to talk about the J.J. Abrams connection again. You know, it's like there's always these plot threads that they love to pick up and then forget about. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe doesn't throw anything away, even if they have to wait 16 years to make a callback.
No, I mean, hell, think about what apparently they're going to be doing with the Black Panther sequel. They're going to basically take a throwaway and make it into a major plot point. Like a throwaway line, like, oh, there's some earthquakes going down underwater. Namor, baby!
There you go.
There you go. So
did they get the rights to the character back?
Yeah. Namor is going to be in the Black Panther sequel.
Huh.
That'll be interesting.
But it's going to kind of tie into, you know, outstanding, you know, comics storylines on that front, and you know, also giving everybody somebody to fight, because they need somebody to fight, because, well, they need something to do, since, you know, the elephant in the room.
Yeah. Well, because we do have to get a lead into another Avengers movie, which will have a completely different set of Avengers.
Yeah.
I mean, there'll be some holdovers, obviously, for continuity's sake, because you know.
Yeah, of course, there's going to be a completely different set, because a certain family is going to be showing up here at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have Fantastic Four. We're going to have X-Men.
Eventually, at some point, and hopefully,
for the moment, we still have Spider-Man.
Yeah, for the moment.
Yeah.
Although, who knows how that lasts? Because
I think the
Sony really wants it back on their own.
Yeah, but the problem with Sony, though, is that they're always teetering on the brink of financial ruin. You know, so they have to keep making these conciliatory gestures to get an influx of cash in order to do their own thing. You know?
Yeah, and they also have to keep doing their own thing, because if they don't do their own thing after a certain amount of time, rights reversion.
Yeah.
To be fair, they've been doing a good job of that lately, considering they managed to get $3 billion out of Netflix and Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so,
but you know, I think in this particular case, it's to their benefit to do a little bit of cooperation. You know.
Yeah.
The mouse is too powerful. They're not all powerful, but they're powerful enough. to cause them
Yeah,
problems if they fight too much.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that they tried to do Spider-Man on their own, and when it became clear that after a certain point they couldn't without help.
Yeah,
and of course,
you know.
it's around that.
The other thing is that Spider-Man is too deeply entrenched into other things in the Marvel. And I'm not saying Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just in the largesse that is the Marvel Universe. Period.
Yeah, it's Marvel period. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, and in fairness, which is not something I say lightly, in fairness to Disney, it wasn't their idea to sell these characters off in the first place.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was it was the good people. It was the good. It was Avi Arad. It was Ike Perlmutter. It was all those good old boys.
Yeah. And that's because they were trying to keep Marvel alive in order to get to this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I mean, it is what it is, You can't fault Disney, you can't fault Sony, you can't even fault Fox.
And it's also just amazing to consider the fact that, this whole split-up deal has actually been better for Marvel than, everybody being in one place in DC.
Mm-hmm.
It's insulting. It's insulting.
And actually, probably part of the reason why they went with the Avengers and stuff is because, they didn't have the X-Men or
but
Fantastic Four or the Spider-Man. The actual popular Marvel characters.
Well, I mean, they were half of the popular
The
characters.
Avengers are popular now, but they weren't always.
I mean, it's kind of interesting because honestly, if we really want to think about it, Captain America and Iron Man and Hawkeye and Black Widow and all of these other characters were really B-tier characters in the Marvel lexicon.
I think Captain America, I would put that one aside, but everybody else,
He was up and down. He was on a roller coaster. He was up and down. He's kind of a seminal character because he predates the Marvel that we know today, and that's what makes him a weird odd man out.
Even in the comics, the Avengers was kind of all these characters that didn't really have much going on.
The smartest thing Marvel ever did was consolidating the Avengers back down because they had way too many Avengers groups. West Coast Avengers, it was fucking ridiculous. Excalibur, too many Avengers variants and too many teams. And too much reference. Oh, we got them in LA, we got them in New York, we got them in the Heartland, we got them in Europe, we got them every fucking where.
Wasn't Excalibur an X-Men spinoff?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, but I mean, it was also kind of also modeled after. It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway, we should probably wrap this up for the week.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Well, I mean, there's some there's some minor movie news. We've made progress on character models and stuff like that. So. Drakengard 3 premiered Friday on Facebook, and it had a middling audience. I'm tying it to Varias' playthrough of Nier Automata, since they're tangentially related. The entire Drakengard Nier franchise has an unusual web of connections. Yeah. Speaking of relationship to Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Because Yoko Taro is a hell of a drug, yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Having some problems with the emulator popping. I don't know if that's a video card issue because it doesn't have enough processing power because my video card is old or what, but other than that, it was pretty smooth. Everything went roughly according to plan, so I'm very pleased about that. And of course, we're still hitting highs with the MS Saga plays on Sunday. Thursday, I don't have anything to advertise for tomorrow, and the reason for that is because I am bored with Honkai Impact the Third. It just seems to go on and on forever, and we're not getting any closer to a resolution, and I'm barely at the halfway point of the game. And it's just upscaling in difficulty and then going off in all these tangents that seem vaguely related to one another. So I'm putting that on hold. Not necessarily canceling it outright, but I'm putting it on hold, and I no longer have a Thursday stream here on Twitch. So the question I'm going to put to our fans and listeners is, what retro game do you want to see me play next? And I would prefer it not be an RPG because we're still doing that on Sundays. Anything action, fantasy related. I did talk about Chaos Legion, which I have in my hand right now, as being one possible alternative. So
Also, you're going to need to define retro.
let's say anything pre-PlayStation 3. And of course, the only stipulation will be that the suggestions that I pick will be from what I actually have in my physical library, because I'm not going to go download stuff for stream and then, raise the ire of Nintendo or something.
Little DMCA.
Yep. So I'm kind of looking for something a little bit on the action-y oriented side, but let's say pre-2006. So let's put a pin in that. But like I said, I'm looking for fan suggestions for something as an alternative to play, so I can expand Mac Paladin's Retro Gaming Emporium and actually live up to the title of this channel. It seems to be working, and the mobile game thing. It's not that it's run its course; it's that I'm personally over it. I don't want to do any more Genshin Impact. I don't want to do any more Honkai Impact. I don't want to play any more. I don't want to play any MOBA games or anything like that. We're doing 3 days a week of Overwatch, for Christ's sake.
You don't want to stream Bejeweled for 24 hours?
Hey, let me play this this Gordon Ramsay based matching game some more. Chef Blast.
Yeah.
or better yet, I can play Small Town Murders.
Uh,
Real exciting shit. Oh look, I got a combo score. Let me, I mean, at that point, I could just start scrolling through TikTok and laughing at people's videos for an hour. No copyright issues there. But it would be about as exciting. Either that, or I could do an entire series on me painting a 4x4 foot square on my wall and then watching it dry. You like that, huh?
Yeah. Well, hey, somebody might. Who knows?
All right, so that's it for this week's last news desk on the left. Of course, on behalf of the crew, we thank you for coming out. And
would there be a programming note here for myself here?
is there?
Yeah. I will not be here next week. I will be on vacation. Let's say.
Yes, that's correct. You do have that going on. All right, so Kevin will not.
So I won't be here for next week's episode. So I will be back 2 weeks from tonight.
All right. So
programming.
There you go. All right. So, but the rest of Adam and the rest of the crew will be here with me next week while we try to muddle through without Kevin, and hopefully, as always, it will be an entertaining broadcast. But until next time, and don't forget to check out Drakengard 3 with me on Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific time on Facebook, facebook.com/Macia, M-A-C-I-A, add 2 letters, Paladin. And we'll see you then. Until next time, I'm your host, Mac Paladin. Thanks for listening. Stay safe out there, kids.
Stay cool, everybody.